So this is Coffeeless Programming Administration Portal. So this is something that's running locally in my computer. I don't want to deploy it yet because there is no need as I'm working on this project by myself. So it's pretty safe to keep it locally. And so what I'm able, or the reason for this administration portal to exist, is that I can create the different entities that allow me to populate the content in the client-facing application. So for example, remember we saw the homepage. Okay, well, you know that content is being displayed through here. So for example, the programming languages section, the algorithms, data structures, and coding interviews. And here is where I'm able, for example, to say if the content is available. That is why we saw a green button in the client-facing application for JavaScript, and the rest, because they're unavailable, they were in gray, right? So I can choose a different programming language. I can add a new programming language, and so I can add a redirection to the content that I want. This, for example, is the description that we saw below the, let's say, programming languages tag. And so this is all of the content that we have. Like, of course, in here, all of them are unavailable, but everything is dynamic. I can create different content here, and then I can just deploy it whenever I want, right? And so that will be the idea. Here is the section. This is how I can create this title that we had at the header at the navbar, and then the description that we had on the navbar. Then we have the tutorial section. In here, I'm retrieving the tutorials. By the way, this is actually using the cloud. So for example, these are the tutorials that I can create and that we can use to fetch the information in the static pages. Then we have the tutorial modules. So for example, when you go to tutorial modules in programming languages or programming fundamentals, well, this is what you can see, or what is listed in the description of the tutorial module. So I'm gonna be clear. So let's go ahead into Coffeeless Programming, and let's go into JavaScript, and then let's go into programming languages. So this content that you see here is being fetched, of course, from here, right? The icon obviously is also fetched from there, and then you have the programming languages and so on. Let's also go to home just to be more clear of what's going on. And so this content here, software engineering, clean architecture, web application is in here, software engineer, and then also the content here. So everything is going to be dynamic. That is how I can make the most out of, how can I tweak and improve or create the content in the web application here without having to format or hard code text, obviously, in this client facing application, right? We have the glosary that we were discussing also. For example, let's go ahead into JavaScript. Let's go to here. Okay, object, the document object model. Where is this coming from? Well, if you go to the administration portal, you go to glossary, and then you're gonna see, okay, well, we have the document object model here, and this is meant for, well, for this part here, right? So this description is what is being displayed in here. You can also, by the way, embed your own image. I didn't do it because it was not necessary, but you can definitely do that. You have a redirection URL, which is what you're being displayed here, right? And then you have, well, the extra is kind of like metadata that I'm going to use eventually in the future to have to be able to query this glossary model whenever I want. And then the categories, for example, is what we're talking about. So it's going to be a category in JavaScript, a programming language is JavaScript, programming language in Python, and so on. And so these are going to be associated with a tutorial. So for example, C++ is a programming language, Java is a programming language, and so on. Recursion is an algorithm, but also recursion could be used, for example, in interview questions. So maybe you can find it here, recursion, somewhere, because I think I have a duplicate here. And so yes, so recursion is going to also be used in coding interview questions, right? So coding interview questions regarding or related to recursion. And so the main part of the administration portal is to create, at least for now, is going to create a post. So for example, it's going to, we're going to be talking about, I'm just going to click on this, I don't know, this should be fixed. But the idea is that in this post content, I'm going to, okay, that's it. So I'm going to be able to introduce, and for example, to talk about the introduction to JavaScript, right? I can create, new, basically what I'm doing here, I'm using my own tooltip, for example. This is medium-like tooltip. So I can create a, I don't know, a URL to redirect this part to here, right? And so this interact now will redirect you to this web application. If you were to click on that, I'm able to make the text bolded or italics, for example. I can also make it bigger, for example, like this. I can go back though. I can make it h2, h3, and so on. I can also make sure that if I'm going to cite a source, I'm going to be able to do it. And so in here is where I can reference a book, I can reference a web. So I'm trying to make the, this will be the post creation engine that I was talking about. So I create an engine that allows me to create this post dynamically, and they're just going to be, they're going to hydrate the HTML template that I have in this application here. Of course, is in Next.js, right? And so that's how I'm able to do that. And obviously I can already create that. So although I don't have the information, but we can just try something just for fun. We can look at AWS here. The location could be whatever. The year could be 27. This could be whatever, and you add the reference. And so here you add the subscript, and this is exactly what you will also get in this front-end application. So that when I cite someone, I'm able to have also a reference at the bottom, right? So that'll be the URL, the creator, the year, and then when I access that online information. So that is being created. This reference part here is being created whenever I do, perform this click. So of course I'm using the document object model, right, which I was talking about before, and then also I'm using something called the Mutation Observer API. It's a web API that allows me to control what happens in the HTML whenever I add or delete nodes, and nodes will be HTML tags, for example. And so those are mainly the things that you can do with this application here. You can also add a node here, for example, if you want to make this a node. You can also create your own code here, for example, if you want to have code. You can add, for example, the code section, and here is where you type your code, for example, that you can see in different blog posts here. So let's go ahead in here, and this is it, right? So I also created this, let's say, this code editor. So you can have a word let, and it's going to be let a equal to 5, and so on. And so this is going to notice that there is a number here, and there is also a let, which is a keyword in JavaScript. So this engine that I create for creating this code editor is using regex patterns to be able to catch these words. Of course, it's something complex, but it's something that I also want to have control on, and so it's already there. By the way, I think I forgot to mention about the code. So this is how you can make this work look like a code, for example, like this. And so that's how you are able to see reference and value and so on, right? Also, let's see, we have the definition. So here's how you add the definition, right? So we can look at the definition and I'll go back. Let's see if there's something like that. Okay, backend. And so this will have, if you don't have the definition, you can obviously create that definition here. You can create the glossary for it, right? So for example, for the argument object model, right? That's something that that we created there, right? So for example, let's say that we want to use the definition for backend, okay, and that should do it. So that's how we define the word, and then also not only that, but we can also have this pointing to a URL. So I think, let me see this part. Okay, document object model here. Okay, and whenever we deploy this to production, it's going to create this link here that we can see, well, that we saw before in this programming language section, and it's going to display the information. What else do we have? Well, then we can have these structures that I created for warnings, for that'll be a different kind of warning. To create a video, that's something that I want to add eventually. Of course, this is something that I'm still working on. To create this information text, to create tables, for example, if I want to create tables. So that's how you can see how these tables are created here. In here, there should be a table somewhere, perhaps. But okay, so there's a table, right? So that's how I'm able to populate the data here with whatever, with whatever I want, right? And you just create the content there. And so then I have also this add drop down section, right? This is the drop down that you see in here, for example, when you go to the frequently asked questions. So that's how I'm able to create my drop down. So I'm creating again this engine that allows you to create posts with dynamic content. This HTML structures is something that I create. These are templates that I create as components within this administration portal, and I can just plug them into this content editable. It's called. This is a content editable HTML tag. right? And so for example, now the last thing that I can show you is how to add images. And so in here I can look for images from, well, from wherever I like. I'm not gonna do that though because I already have images here, so I can add an image that already exists. For example, let's use this image of cloud, right? We can click on, we can also use this client server one, and then this is going to display this image here, and I'm going to be able to add any kind of caption. I can also delete the caption if I want, by the way, so that I don't have to use it. And so in here, you can just delete the caption in here, and then the caption is deleted, it's not, and you won't be able to see it anymore. So basically, this is the way that everything is created. That's also how I'm able to create or add these images in here. Like that will be an image, what we saw here, right, with this engine. And so that's mainly what I created. This is what I crafted in the administration portal, and it will allow me to streamline the content creation for the client-facing application. So again, and this will be actually a CMS. So I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.